Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call this meeting of the Reedport School District 105 to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We do have a quorum. Any changes to the agenda, sir?
You have the revised agenda, no changes beyond that.
All right. All right. Let's move to the oath of office for our two new board members.
I'm gonna have you do it one at a time, because I've got your names filled into the right spot, so, Kelly will have you go first. Right hand, repeat after me. I, Kimberly Clardy,
I, Kimberly Clardy,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Oregon, and the laws thereof,
the Constitution of the State of Oregon and the laws thereof,
and the policies of the Reedsport School District.
and the policies of the Reedsport School District.
During my term,
During my term,
I will faithfully and impartially
I will faithfully and impartially
discharge the responsibilities
discharge the responsibilities
of the office of school board member
of the office of school board member
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
She's in.
I
Ladies
can't
and
just
gentlemen,
thank you
please,
too.
would you welcome Kimberly Clardy to this? Okay.
I,
Gary-
Cindy Phillips,
I, Cindy Phillips,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Oregon and the laws thereof,
the Constitution of the State of Oregon and the laws thereof,
and the policies of the Reedsport School District.
and the policy of the Reedsport School District.
During my term,
During my term,
I will faithfully and impartially
I will faithfully and impartially
discharge the responsibilities
discharge the responsibilities
of the office of school board member
of the office of school board member
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Welcome to you both. I'm excited to see how things go for us. Okay, action items. At this time, we'll entertain a motion for board chair.
I make a motion to nominate Chairman Jones for board chair for the 25-26 school year.
Second.
The other nomination.
That was fast.
Motion made by Bonnie and seconded by Bob. All in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you. Thanks, Seth. Thank you so much. Election of board vice chair. And I would like to nominate, continue down with Bonnie Boer to be our vice chair.
Second.
Any other nominations?
Second with reservations.
I love you too.
Motion's been made by Chairman Jones and seconded by Bob to elect Vice Chair Bonnie Boer. All in favor, raise your right hand. Passes unanimously for who's ever taken notes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Now we've come to the part where we're supposed to have a whole bunch of little ankle biters up here to get accolades, but there's no little ankle biters. There's one, but is she here for an accolade?
We can make one up.
Next year, there you go.
Make one up for our favorite too.
I don't know, that one might bite back. Okay. The superintendent awards will return in our October board meeting. Community comments. Individuals may address the board on agenda or non-agenda items, excluding personal complaints. To speak at the meeting, they need to be signed at the table coming in or indicate the agenda item or complete a community comment card. They must limit their remarks to 3 minutes.
We have no community comments at this time.
Okay. That'll work. Reports. According to my agenda, Josh is very well clean shaven tonight.
Well, I was reading through the agenda and I skimmed past reports and I said, Charmin, hey, you need to update the business manager to say me, but I forgot to say on reports, you need to update me. So that's my fault. It's a busy time of year and I skim things very quickly. So I will direct you to the fiscal reports in the board packet, and I will say that as an accrual district, we still have a lot of closing out the prior fiscal year, even though June 30th was 10 days ago-ish. We still have a lot of work to finalize our grant reconciliation and claims, and we still have invoices coming in from the prior year that have to be backdated to last year and so forth. So these are estimated based on the numbers we had on June 30th for what last year's ending fund balance is, but that will not be trued up until probably the end of August when we finish our audit prep. But should be pretty close to accurate, some changes here or there. Are there any questions for me?
Not according, or not in regards to this, but I'm just wondering, what's your apprehension level with what we just heard from the governor's office, cutting more money out of the state school budget? What's that look like for us?
So there haven't been any changes in the state school fund budget from what we built the budget on for this year, so there are no apprehensions as far as that goes. There are slight apprehensions with our federal funding freezes, but right now the amount is between probably $10,000 and $30,000 that we have a potential freeze on. There is not a freeze on Title I, which is the biggest bulk of our federal funding. So I would say I always operate in this position with some apprehension. So maybe slightly more than normal, but never a high apprehension at this point. I think that we ended up where we needed to in our state school fund dollars, and that's the bulk of our funding, and it makes me feel good that the legislature worked so hard in getting that number where it should be.
So we're still not gonna be able to let Mr. Euling and Mrs. Watts go out and hire about 10 teachers each or anything like that?
Not until they start getting some kids, so if you are coming back from Eugene with bulls next time, maybe get some kids on the way back, that'd be good.
I tried getting 3 of them coming back through Elkton, but they were in the crosswalk, I had to swerve.
Yes, we need to encourage enrollment, and that will help our funding.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Rachel?
Not me.
Do I get to talk to her later in the meeting, Ron? Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right.
There for board comment.
Designate custodian funds. John?
My superintendent report. Are you wanting the superintendent report, or are we jumping down?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, superintendent report, please.
2 items to bring to the board tonight. The strategic planning that I discussed previously, I've gotten some quotes. Our best bang for our buck is going to be the one that we got from COSA, about half the price. They're going to be Oregon specific to us, perform very similar work. As we heard at the previous meeting, this is going to be involving listening sessions, getting to know what our students, our families, our community is expecting from the school, for us to do long-range planning. Ideally, we'll end up with an updated mission and vision statement and kind of what our goals are for us in the 1-year, 3-year, 5-year, 10-year sort of scope, and do that in a way that we've heard from our stakeholders and can respond to them meaningfully. The work will start soon. I wanted to tell the board first before I alerted them, accept them, but I do want to get them scheduled quickly. It would be good to be able to coincide this either right before or at the start of the school year, so everybody's fresh and staff reporting back to work. And I just think the timing there would be better before we get into the school year too deep. I've talked to the city manager. I want to be sure to include a couple of our city councilors, because I think as the city goes, the school district probably needs to be at least in a parallel pathway. We don't want to have divergent goals and operational things driving us. So knowing what they're doing and them hearing from us, being part of the process, being able to take that back to their own council meetings and use that as part of what they discuss, or hopefully they will use it as part of what they discuss. I hope they will see that value. But there's so much that happens between the school and the city that if we're going at opposite ends of a particular issue or what we're trying to accomplish, it wouldn't work. So I will be specifically inviting a couple of them and see who we can get to, so they don't have a quorum issue. But that way, if one is gone, there's a backup. So I'll be reaching out to them as well. Any questions about strategic planning? The other item I wanted to bring up recently is in the news. Actually coincides pretty well with a agenda item that Jerry Ewing was going to bring and has since pulled off. Governor Kotek issued an executive order. She wants policies in all school districts banning essentially cell phones from the start of the school day to the end of the school day. Very similar to what Jerry was going to be bringing in as a part of a handbook change. So she trumped it. Because she is the state superintendent of education, this isn't exactly the same as her just saying, as the governor, I want to do something. She is actually in charge of all the state education in Oregon. So this has a little bit more teeth to it than typical executive orders would. OSBA writes all of our boilerplate policies that we use as templates when we review them, and they're actively working on that now. This executive order came as a bit of a surprise. ODE's been on their heels a little bit trying to respond to it. This morning they had their first listening session to superintendents and administrators around the state. What are some of the things that statewide they should be considering as they work towards rulemaking? As rulemaking happens, then the policies become developed. The school district up in Lake Oswego has a policy very similar to what the executive order is describing right now, and that will probably be a very similar one to what we see. I think it's going to be important for us to be taking action, at least through direction and handbook, to the students before the school year starts, so that even if we're actually finalizing the policy in the month of September, that the students in the schools are on notice. It's not going to be a mid-month or a mid-year change for what they're trying to do, and they can start their school year with the expectations that cell phones are not supposed to be in the building from the start of the school day to the end of the school day. So very much an active work. There will be the boilerplate policy coming probably the first part of August, and I think hopefully all indicated we want it in time for our August board meetings. So we should be able to see that and get it to you. And even if we can't quite get it finalized into action that night, we don't do a work session to follow up, we should at least be able to have enough direction to operate at a handbook level until the policy is cleaned up. We have until October 31st to have a policy finalized. We have until January 1st to have the policy in action in the buildings. And again, mid-year switch for the students would be pretty awkward, wouldn't really be fair. If we can just get them on the right pathway day one, it's probably an easier pill to swallow. So, if you have any questions about the
Do you
executive
know
order?
how like Oswego is managing that program, or, I mean, how are they taking the phones away from the students? Like we talked about earlier in previous meetings, there's a concern with $1,200 phone away from the kid, and then the next thing you know, the kid says, broke my phone.
One thing that I did catch in the policy was very clear was, the Oswego School District is not responsible for technology taken away in violation of this policy. It's something to that effect language, but they stuck it in their policy that if you're in violation of the policy, we're not responsible for your phone being stored or taken away or removed. So, again, we'll have our OSBA folks, and they have their legal weighing in on this and kind of where it lies, where it doesn't. I think if we put people on notice that they're not supposed to be here, there's policy against it, or there's going to be policy against it, and that we're not responsible for them, and just over notify, that's probably our best leg to stand on.
So if they have it in their pocket, does it get taken away, or if it's just brought out?
There's going to be a lot of nuance to this because
pocket.
Yes.
seeing them would be a problem. They're not supposed to be in the school. So if they're tucked away neatly in a locker and you'll hear them ringing during the day and never see them at the end of the school day, taken out so the student can go home or go to practice or whatever they need to do, it doesn't seem to violate. But if they're in the classroom or on the person in any way, it's likely to be seen. And the executive order goes to devices that take and receive phone calls, take and receive text messages, and can access the internet. So smartwatches that people text and do phone calls and stuff on, it's very encompassing, but it does not prohibit devices under the school's regulations. So our Chromebooks, because we monitor and we run the networking for those, aren't going to be able to do the things that would violate the policy. Those aren't allowed. There's also very clear acknowledgement in the executive order that a scenario if a student is diabetic and their phone is monitoring glucose attached to, that there's exceptions for medical purposes. If it's in an IEP or a 504, that there can be exceptions there. And then a third one that's probably the most flimsy, if you will, of executive order is that local school districts can create reasons for additional exemptions. I think that's a slippery slope, and I think it opens a door that may be more difficult to close than not. When we get to that point of having to have that consideration and that talk, discuss that more, but there is that one piece that immediately raised all the hair on all the superintendent's head in the state, like, whoa, hey, that's going to open doors that would be way too hard for us to close, for our administrators to have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So we may want to talk carefully about how we do or don't allow that in policy. So mostly this is just kind of an FYI that it's coming, be kind of a short notice. Typically our board sees policy and doesn't make too many changes, but if we do need to extend it, we do have until October 31st. We can always have additional special sessions if we need to work on it. Are there any questions about executive order?
So if like, I'm going to use Silverton as an example because I went through a Silverton thing here not long ago. But Silverton had like 5 applications, 5 different devices that the kids can't have in the school. And the way I understood it, the governor's only going to have 3. So can the local school district supersede the governor's executive order?
You can always do more. Prior to this executive order, Principal Ewing was bringing a very similar item to you to consider as part of the handbook.
Right.
We are allowed to do a little bit more as long as it doesn't become illegal, overstepping something, than is required by law. So yes.
Okay.
So our current policy now is that they're just not allowed in the classrooms or not? Okay, and what are our consequences if they have? Do we really have anything said if you're caught, or phones taken away, or?
The system, as I understand currently, they make phone slips and they have to take their phone down to the office, and there's a progressive scale of consequences. And like anything, it's as good as people's ability to see it and catch it. I think it's dicey about what's a kid doing over there. Getting into their personal space is tricky. Now, if there's an executive order about we have to absolutely not allow these devices anywhere on the halls, and it might make it a little easier on those classroom teachers who are, what's that kid doing over there?
Right, yeah.
Curled in a ball.
Are we having a problem with that? Like, are there a lot of kids that are on the cell phones? Like, is that a big issue right now as far as in classrooms or in the building, or it's just,
I think
Not
because
necessarily.
Principal Ewing was gonna bring it in, add it to the handbook, I think it's enough of a distraction issue that
we're seeing issues
they wanted
with
to
it?
ramp up their level of rulemaking so that they could enforce it more strongly.
Is this information gonna go to parents before school starts?
Yeah, and I think, Terry and I have already discussed this, I've advised, and I think he agrees, day one, first hour, first period, you have to have an assembly, you need to be very clear, because this is a pretty big change for kids. If you don't put them on notice early and often, act surprised, and they might be, so information going out, and once we have policy, we can start talking about it more specifically with families, because that's just one more reason to remind their kids, you really don't need it at school. We have a soapbox, or we have a telephone in all of our classrooms. Now, obviously, when we go out to the sports fields for PE, have a phone out on the field, but there's lots of ways to find kids in the building, get them to the office, and parents need to reach them. So access to their children is not really limited. You don't need to text their children directly necessarily. We have ways to reach them. So this will kind of put it back to where the system needs to operate.
Are you the person giving exemption? So they have to,
That would probably depend on how we set it up, or if we set them up and allow it. We don't have to allow it. It's allowable in the executive order for boards to create them. It's not required.
so we should probably have it as a policy before school starts.
It would be simpler to have it in policy, easier for your
Yeah,
staff,
because
because the staff can say, hey, there's policy right off the bat, and they have an assembly, there's policy. We will operate under the intention and belief that we're going to have policy set up and have some pretty fair idea of what direction it's going to go. Having the policy done sooner would make it simpler for staff and administration.
Does staff agree? Before school starts?
Much as we've talked to, yeah, I think.
That way all the exemptions can be in place and then kids know where they stand, instead of wasting a month trying to figure out who has a phone, who doesn't.
And we are, from this past school year, we know students who have them for medical reasons. We know which ones have it in their 504, it's already documented. I think we pretty well can handle those required parts of it. And if we need further exemptions for additional reason, I don't know. There might be a scenario, and it'd be important that we think, and we try to maybe, we should be sure to announce it before the next board meeting when we have policy. Hey, parents, if you have feedback that you'd like our board to know, submit written public comment or meeting for public comment. We want to set it up right first time, ideally.
When did you expect Governor to put out that boilerplate information, John?
It'll come from OSBA. Spencer Lewis is promising the first part of April, because we all said,
August?
or August. If we give you July to get it figured out, we're going to miss our July board meetings across the state. So you have it ready for us for our August board meetings, and he took that to heart. It's really putting workload on ODE to get their rulemaking done so that they can build the policy correctly based on rulemaking.
Is that going to give us enough time to get that inserted into the handbooks for the students and the parents?
If you go straight off the boilerplate, it'll be very simple. You can get it done in one action at one meeting. If we want to have a lot of changes and additions, I want to have a special meeting to follow up and have a second reading of the policy. Or if you lengthen them out because you don't have accolades, then maybe you conduct a work session prior to your August meeting. That would be a mechanism for listening and help draft the changes to a policy if you think they're needed, so that you can act at the board meeting. Probably a couple ways to go about it.
What you and Jerry and Tara and Missy know so far, is it doable to get it done by September?
The elementary, you don't have the problem. I think you'll have staff members with a lot of very situational, nuanced questions at the secondary level, just because they've seen it and they're about this, or about that, and they will want clarity, I believe, so that they know how to operate when they're dealing with the situation. That may help steer us with exemptions, not exemptions. Thinking so, you might want to, literally just thought, you might want a work session before we have that August meeting, maybe 4 o'clock, so that you can go to your 5:30 meeting. And I feel like you have good information, and still I'd have public comment. I'd want to be sure that folks who want to weigh in with what their specific family child situation might be can at least be heard.
Any other questions for John on that? You, Governor Kojak. Let's move into the consent agenda. These are routine actions that typically require no discussion, such as the approval of previous meeting minutes and the acceptance of donations. They're frequently addressed collectively in a single vote by the board. Nobody has any questions, and then I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
Motion made by Bob, seconded by?
Second.
Seconded by Kim. Would it be called Kimberly or Kim?
Kim is fine.
Just checking. Okay, all in favor, raise your right hand. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Action. Can we vote on all these action items as one action, John? One vote?
I would say if you read them, just to be sure that what your motion is entailing, and make sure you address if there's any questions or changes, or if anybody wants to pull an item out. I think as long as you do all that steps, you can do it as one. For information to new members, these are regulatory steps. We do them annually, and it just reaffirms who are individuals in certain situations that will be tasked with work for the entire school year.
Are these all basically the same, then no changes? This is who was set for last year as far as the people named?
With the exception of Josh Cook for Rachel Amos as Deputy Court Business Manager.
Okay.
That's the only change.
Is the World newspaper still in business?
Yes.
Really?
Ever go out on a boat storm for like on the insurance itself? Insurance and record, do we ever like go out for quotes for that?
Not for
This-
insurance.
Yeah, this was a change about 3 years ago, though. We switched to Tuzo as the insurance, but
Right.
it's been a while. In the last couple of years, we updated that. And
So-
we had good service.
I'm sorry, I keep trying to, I'm thinking you're done. PACE does not allow insurance agencies to charge anymore. So it doesn't matter which insurance agent that we go to, it won't cost us any different for a PACE special district. It's just who provides the best service. So we did go with a different insurance agency a few years ago because of retirement or closing of business or something. But as far as the cost of it, PACE special district is the same insurance for the pool across the state. It's just who the agent is that provides the service.
And Craig has been very responsive to us, so.
Everybody had a chance to look at it? Any questions? Okay, I entertain a motion for action.
I make a motion to accept item 11, action item A through I, and numbers 10 through 14 as presented.
Second,
Motion made by Bonnie Brewer, seconded by Bob, to approve action item 11, A through I, and 10 through 14. All in favor, raise your right hand. Passes unanimously, thank you. Um, 12, discussion. First one, A, is the Oregon School Board Association Summer Board Conference, August 8th through the 10th in Salem, Oregon this year.
I'd like to collect for Charmin any interested names who want to go to this. And I would probably note that the pre-conference on the 8th wouldn't necessarily have to if you just wanted to go on the 9th and 10th for the main conference. So if you do want to attend, let me know, and which part, either the whole thing or just the main conference. Charmin, get registrations and materials set up for you. And OSBA is your Oregon School Board Association. They are your parent group that helps all the local school boards in the state of Oregon navigate what's going on. They're your lobbyists, legislature, and making sure that the interests of the school boards are being met. So they're your go-to group.
Does this only happen once a year?
This is their summer conference and then their annual convention. As issues continue to evolve and legislation is going on and issues that will continue to change what topics are, and they send out surveys every so often and want to know what are the current topics of interest that boards want to know about, and so they dovetail what they present according to the feedback that they get. So yes, they happen every year and they change in topic, situation specific.
I just have something already going for that weekend, but I'd like to see if there's another one at some point in time.
And between the three of them, just stepping ahead of you, Mr. Jones, South Coast ESD, it's letter D there, the board governance conference, that'll just be one evening, it'll be just down there in Coos Bay. First conference on your list is in Salem, and the November conference in Portland. And if you want to attend, just let us know so you registered correctly and get the right accommodations and figure out who's carpool the pool. Bonnie would very much like you right in November going up to Portland part, so.
As far as the November, do you know when the deadline for registration is on that one?
Usually registration runs pretty close to the event.
Okay.
Getting the room is trickier.
Okay,
And we try to want to keep you on site at that hotel when we can, so you're not trying to navigate the streets of Portland back and forth
Yeah.
between sessions.
Yeah, I wouldn't want that either.
You're to the Portland one, rent a dump car, don't take your nice car.
Is there a possibility of renting something bigger, John, so that everybody could go together? To one
I
and
don't
more?
think there's a numbers discount necessarily. Sometimes they might shave $50 off after you have your second, third, or fourth member, but I don't know off the top of my head, and it usually isn't major if it is.
I'm talking about a vehicle,
A vehicle,
transportation.
you know, they'll,
We could ride in the food van.
Well, we touched on that in our meeting.
yeah, we would try to encourage carpooling because we don't want to pay multiple sets of mileage. Parking is usually part of the hotel fee, so they would theoretically put all the vehicles in that we have registration for, but if we're a carpool, it makes it simpler for us.
So we couldn't just rent like a bigger van or something and to everybody to go together at the same time?
Yeah, we could absolutely want to, if you want to rent a van, and typically Charlotte would want to go for the administrative executive part of this. I would go with the board, and however many of you goes, potentially 7 people.
Just a thought.
I've rode the little short activity bus at Scotty's to Portland several times for wrestling and stuff, it ain't that bad. It's a little chilly in the winter, but it's not
You'd be
bad.
willing to drive that, would you?
What?
You'd be willing to drive that up there?
I'm not licensed to drive it too.
Drove it to Gilchrist in a wrestling tournament once. John, is the OSBA Essentials training gonna be, ESD, is that gonna be a duplicate of any of the conferences, both in August or in November?
I didn't track your question, please.
Is the OSBA Essentials training that's gonna be at CUSESD, is that a repeat of the conferences that's gonna be in August or November?
It could be. Typically, when you go to the conferences, there's multiple sessions at each breakout, and that might be a repeat. This is a standard thing that OSBA does around the state, and they like to kind of travel for this, and then local boards go to one spot. So there's 10 school districts in our ESD. There could potentially be up to 10 boards attending this, but it probably is one of their stock presentations that they use over and over. So that potential's there.
It was shared last night at our board meeting that, because there are so many new board members in our region, that because we can host it at our ESD, then they are gonna come down as board training and having it in one session instead of having it at multiple school districts and having to come down multiple times. So it's essential skills and functions for board members.
A important note on that letter B at the ESD, that'll be the same night that the district already has scheduled for our open house, meet with teachers. I don't necessarily need to be at that. We have assistant principal who will be there, and the other principals will be there, but I would need to attend with you at that board training. But that would be another event that's happening that night at conflict, same time, same day. We just would not be able to attend the open house because of that.
This is similar to what we've been to before, right?
They usually do one in October, and they want to do a listening session at that point, and they present legislation. That's where we got the great news that the price was going up last year. This will be different than that. This
Okay.
is specifically on this topic, and there was even some parts that the presenters already indicated they're not going to be able to address very well because they won't have the right team members with them side the topic. So this is going to be pretty specifically focused.
What's the time on the August one?
August, either the 8, 9, 10, or the 9, 10, or the one at the ESD.
The August 21st one?
Okay, that'll be 5 to 8, right after. And we can carpool together from here, and I'll be right everybody down.
I'd like to go to that one.
I can make that one. I'm not able to make the one coming up on August 8th. Maybe November. I'm a little soon to know for sure on that one.
Cindy, question mark. Is anybody interested in the August 8 through 10? Are Kim and Cindy interested in the August
21st.
August 21st? Anybody else likely to go to that one? Gary Jones? Bonnie?
I don't think so.
Sure, okay.
This time, Tom, thanks.
And then what about November 6th through 8th? Cindy says maybe Bonnie would like to go.
Yes.
I'm sorry, who's the yes?
That was Bonnie.
Oh, okay, Bonnie.
Bonnie will drive.
No. Well, you're cruising tonight.
We will get it.
I have to check my L tag. I do an L tag, so
I'm
I
gonna
gotta
say,
check it.
I'm gonna say Kim question.
Lucy is right.
Sure.
Depending on tack.
Got lost last time.
I'll have to get back with you, John, because if it's, we're getting a lot of rain that early, and I'll be feeding cows, so.
Gary Jones question mark?
Pardon?
Gary Jones question mark?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. That's what I know for those conferences.
I'm sorry,
That's what I know for those conferences. Thank you.
thank you, John.
Any other questions for John on that topic? Okay, any new possibilities of community comments?
No community comments on the board.
Mr. Ewing, how's your summer going so far?
Not too bad.
If you got Charlotte parked in the garage, it couldn't be going too good.
It's got about 1,200 miles on it so far.
Oh, okay. And Mrs. Adams, are you ready for the school year in your new role?
No, I'm getting there.
I like to see so much enthusiasm. I have a question for Rachel.
I was given a heads up at 5:23.
Hey, Bear. Takes all the fun out of it. You know, I know you're busier than heck, especially coming back on board and being all ours, all, you know. But I really, really would like to see what time you could, you know, put into working on this bond, where we're gonna be with this bond, our previous bond, so that we could, you know, I wanna be able to start talking to people, companies, contractors, architects, and get going on building a new lunchroom for our kids at the grade school.
Well, Mr. Jones, I already have information for you, so it's really up to you what you want to do. So we have a general obligation bond that we refinanced in 2019, and it doesn't expire until 2033. But when we refinanced it, the original bond obligation was $1.52 per thousand of assessed value. When we refinanced it, it dropped it to $1.13 per assessed value. So we can't go out for a new general obligation bond until that expires in 2033. However, about a year ago, I reached out to our bond company, and what we can do is we can actually go out for what is called a supplementary bond, which means that we could ask the taxpayers to re-up their amount to the $1.52 for basically the remainder of our general obligation period. And that would raise approximately $3.5 million. So we would be paying on that bond still through about the same time frame. It would extend just a bit longer to 2035. And then at that point, we could go for a full bond measure. But we have the opportunity, if the board and administration wishes to pursue that, to look at a supplementary bond. And with that money, we could also, if it passes a ballot measure, pursue an awesome grant application, which basically would double that to about $7 million. So that is an opportunity that we have available to us now, if we want a full mill deal where we're looking at a lot of projects, we have to wait until 2033. Speaking of bonds, the one that actually expires the soonest is our PERS bond, which expires in 2028. And so that's something that the board wants to keep at the top of their list also, because our site account or our PERS bond rates have kept us well below what the normal school district rates are. But because of the changes in the unfunded liability in this last biennium, our rates skyrocketed for this biennium. And we went from 15.82% to 21.12% for tier 1, tier 2 employees, and 12.98% to 17.94% for OpServe employees. So if we let our bond expire, then our rates are going to continue to grow exponentially because we will push back up against the school district rates that are normal. And those are 28.02 for the tier 1, tier 2, and 24.84 for OpServe right now. So, and I mean, that would basically, you know, get us another third above where we are right now. So that's another bond that we want to keep in the back of our minds for pursuing. That does not require a vote to do. That is something that we do as a district and an administration, and we pursue what that looks like. So our PERS bond rates were 5.55% interest, which is similar to what the market rates are right now, so it wouldn't be a significant change in what we would have for a set aside. So that would be a similar continuation to what we have for the cost, and it would keep us kind of down where we are. With our bond refinancing, our rates were 2.66%. So with the market where we are at right now, yes, we'll look at, you know, a $3.5 million bond, but a lot of it's going to be interest too. So we're going to be paying a little bit more than that, $3.5 million over time. So just keeping that in mind. So I do have information for you. I do have this packet. I can reshare that information. I can give it to Charmin to share with the whole board to look at what Lauren from Piper Sandler prepared for me about a year ago, so that you can have that data, has nice information and graphs and charts to look at, so you can see where our options are.
You can read till it goes through the head.
Well, excited as I was, I'm saying was, for our kids to, our grade school kids to have a nice, be able to sit down for breakfast and lunch at the, you know, the kids that I'm concerned about are gonna be graduating college.
College,
That's
yeah.
what this is
Yeah.
accomplished, so.
Will $7 million build us a new thing? No.
Hey, get close though.
I mean, it's gonna make a difference,
Yeah.
but it's a single project type situation.
So how excited can I get, how much information can I spread, not just within our community, but within the commercial, you know, neighborhoods with architects and contractors and stuff, to get feel of it and to be able to, you know, because when we worked on the bond before, I mean, Jim Autry and Tricia Law and a couple more of us, we beat the streets. I mean, we were out shoes, knocking on doors and you know, get people excited, and you know, because of our retired community. And I don't want to be behind the 8 ball, so to speak. I want people to be thinking about it, getting excited about it, and be willing to, you know, jump on board or say, hey, I'd volunteer to sit on an advisory council to help with that or something. I mean, would this be premature in my thinking, you know, to try starting this like the fall or, you know, next week or?
So I'm not an expert, and I definitely do not have a sway of what the district does because I'm a contracted service provider. But being the person who actually refinanced your bond in the first place with the district at the time, I will say that I would highly recommend putting on the schedule right now a work session, so that you can invite community members and then you can talk as the board to decide if that is what direction you want to go. That would be my first recommendation. You have to have a resolution by the board to decide if you're going to move forward with that. That would be the second step, and that means going out on the ballot. And so then you would have to decide, do you want to go on the November ballot or do you want to go on the May ballot? for my part of that, once those decisions are made, then I would reach out to your bond counsel and your, bond person, which would be Piper Sandler. They're the ones that we have an agreement with, and they would just reissue information for us, update what we already have. And then we would also have to make sure that we meet the timelines for, applying for the Austin grant.
Chairman Jones, I think when we're doing strategic planning coming up and we're going to be involving stakeholder groups and having listening sessions, that may be a topic that we want to dovetail in with what we're trying to do, because that creates that early communication, gives us a quick gauge of where we're at, and then we can perhaps kill two birds with one stone.
Can you read my notes from over there?
Has the board saw, sorry, go ahead, Bob.
Well-
You're probably gonna ask the same thing.
Yeah, I'm confused. So this bond that you want to pursue is for the lunchroom, not for the gym. So there's two separate things?
No, well, it's depending on the architects and the engineers, but I'm thinking that, if we get a lunchroom where we can, the kids don't have to sit in the hallways or in the classrooms or something, the other room, the existing room, could then be converted solely for the purpose of a gymnasium and/or, where the stage, when they would have a little play or something, it would work for that, and we don't have to tear down every day and set up, and tear down and set up. And I think that could all be, if I understood you right, that could still be, included in the original bond. But
Yeah, it
all
would be
that-
about 36 cents per thousand that the new levy would be, to make it go back up to the 152 that it originally was in 2009, I think it was.
Has the board saw the building, committee that Bob and I were on? Has that plan been submitted to the board prior?
I don't know that we've had a work session on
No,
it
we
to do,
haven't.
so it's just being able to see it casually.
Yeah, that might be something you might want to look at, because that was some things that was talked about. I think the first phase was building a separate gym, and it would free up that other one for cafeteria and also some eating, some more kitchen area. But I think that first phase was like $10 million, I think, is what the engineer's estimate was.
10 million? And we're about 4.5 million short, aren't we?
Get more
Huh.
hours.
Does Michael Shoppy have that information?
No,
We can pull that up from the architect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sauber, I've got it.
Okay.
And then she said she would help with the bond process as far as what to do, have a meeting, bring her in here for strategic planning.
Is that Marlene?
Yeah. Because the total thing that Kim and I worked on was like 39 million.
yeah, and that was for every building. It was for
Right.
Island High School and District building.
So they have to go out and get a smaller bond and then come back a year later and issue or try to get another bond for the whole deal. I don't know if that makes any sense.
I think there was like 4 different phases that it was in 3 or 4 different phases of projects.
The first phase was what Carrie is talking
It's
about?
the other, yeah, it's the gymnasium, the secondary gymnasium, which would free up that first one, and then it wouldn't be as big as it currently is. I think part of that is going to be kitchen.
Okay.
So you definitely don't want to miss the opportunity when the bond expires in 2033, whether it's the current 113 or the 152 it originally was, if you get it back up there, because, people tend to be more in favor of keeping their amount the same, because if
Right.
you re-go out for the same amount, then,
Yeah.
they tend to be more in favor because it doesn't change what their property taxes are. But it's whether or not you feel like there's going to be value and opportunity for pushing it back to that 152 it originally was.
Well, John, could you try and retrieve the information from the committee that Kim and Bob were on, and then maybe set up a work session for the board? And give us, some time to plan and stuff.
Would the board like to see this document? Would you like me to share it back out?
Please.
Okay.
And I'll try to get a hold of we have you involved maybe before we get to Piper, but
As you can see the preliminary, what it was when I reached
So as
out.
long as we renew that bond by 2033, we're gonna be okay?
Well, renewing it, we would renew it probably within the year before. We would have to start the process to get it on the ballot measure so that you would have to put it on the ballot in 2032 so that it would restart after the expiration in 2033.
Gotta write this down so I can hold you.
Okay. I think I'll be, oh no, I won't be retired then.
You can talk about all you want, but you never get retired. When you get retired, you're busier than when
Yeah,
you
you're
work.
not retired.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, everybody, for your input. It helped.
Does that answer your questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good.
I took a little bit of the wind out of my sails, but I can move.
That's my job.
Board member comments. I will start. Thank you for electing me again, Chairman, and welcome aboard Cindy and Kim. And there's lots of things happening, and, you know, we got a lot of things happening both at our high school and our grade school. I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad everybody's on board to see it happen, and all we gotta do now is, like, you know, Rachel said, I'm trolling back from Eugene or Roseburg. I gotta pick up more kids, so it's, but, Mr. Ewing, everything's happening positively at the high school?
Always during the summer. It's awesome.
Mrs. Watts,
It was,
same answer?
yeah, I had July a little bit off, working on my master's, but, I actually got dressed today, I'm proud of myself.
Okay. Bonnie?
I would like to welcome Kim and Cindy also to the board. You learn a lot. You learn a lot. And it's worth doing because you make a difference. You try to make a difference. Yeah, try to make a difference in a positive way and stuff. And sometimes it's not easy, but anyway, I'm looking forward to the next school year. Welcoming our new vice principal at RCCS. And Mrs. Watts, I believe you're going to continue on at Highland. And Mr. Zumke, you're going to be at Highland also still. Welcome Rachel back.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm never too far.
Anyway, I hope everybody has a restful rest of your summer and be ready to fight on for the next meeting.
Bob, I'm good.
You good? Kim? That makes me nervous. Cindy?
No comments, just happy to be part of it, and everybody's been very welcoming, so thank you.
What's Mom gonna say when you get home, though, on your way home after the meeting?
She's been out there taking pictures, you'll probably be on Facebook later,
Yeah.
Mary, you don't even know.
That's not allowed pictures.
She does really good when you're not looking, or your eyes closed, so it should be good.
It's aggravating as heck when you're trying to get a report from a baseball game or a basketball game, and Vicky's not answering the phone.
I'll tell her to be better.
I think when she gave me her number, I think she gave me somebody else's. Okay, future agendas, Wednesday, August 6th, notice the meeting is being held on the first Wednesday of August due to a scheduling conflict. And that must be our board meeting, because, but it doesn't say.
Yep.
Thursday, August 21st, again, back to school barbecue, and some of us will be missing in action, going to other trainings. Monday, August 25th is the first day of school.
Don't forget about National Night Out either.
Tuesday, August, what is it?
August 5th,
August 5th. National Night Out,
Lions Park.
world's best burnt hot dogs.
We don't burn them.
If you don't burn them, they ain't any good. You gotta burn
That's
them.
true. Is barbecue up at the gazebo.
Yeah, that'll be on the 21st when we have our session on ESD.
Oh,
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Check that. That is possibly changing. We're gonna have an admin meeting in about a week and a half, and that is one of the topics. There is discussion on moving over to the high school to accommodate the cooking and the kitchen staff and the food element of it. And since we have so many high school athletes who are having to wait and practice, it gets them closer into those fights. So we're gonna discuss that. It's tentative right now.
okay,
Thank you for the correction.
thank you.
Mr. Euling, Mrs. Adams, Mrs. Watts, anything you want to throw in there?
Summer school is going really well for our CCS. And so we actually didn't have a big attendance today, and the reason we didn't is because those kids have finished their classes. And so that's good news. I'm proud of them.
Oh, good.
The elementary school is rocking and rolling. John and Robin are both supervising that. We have 3 classes at 3 different levels, 4 weeks, Monday through Thursday, so the kids are getting a lot. We're working with community partners this year, so it's no crazy field trips. It's deep learning in the morning and working with the libraries in the afternoon, so it's been a lot of fun.
What happened to the gardens that the kids started in the spring when school got out? Where did they go?
They have all been delivered. We had a big event on Saturday, I forgot when, 100 years ago it feels like. But there were about, how many, Jacob? 50? We delivered 50. They made 50 gardens and delivered them all around town. Loaded them up on trailers and,
There's still a
were
bunch
they
of
like
the
a
community
pallet?
garden.
yeah, they're 3 by 3
Okay.
gardens
We've seen a few
that the
of those.
kids work with Dr.
Yeah.
Shimo on. And yeah, we have some left over. So those are up for grabs because parents didn't want them or need them. So
Okay,
yeah.
well, we're watering them, so.
I appreciate that very much. And we're going to get back on that. We have a meeting in a week to figure out how we're going to do maintenance since we lost that. We don't have our life skills kids working there this summer. It really shows.
Jacob's been working up there. trying to get
He
things.
told me, so I'm going to link up with him too as well. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other questions, comments, or concerns, I'm going to adjourn the meeting.
Now.
Boom!